All right, we are live here. So let's see. So first, we're going to start with I'm going to back time up just a few moments, and we're going. So here's what is just about to occur. So Holg and Dario came to the tower. You gained entry. And the guard downstairs decided they went up, checked with their boss, quote unquote, came back down, collected you, and then led you up through the tower. So far, all you've seen is one entry room and this spiraling staircase that goes all the way up through and to the peak. Now, you've reached this peak just a moment ago. The person who led you up here indicated that they pointed across the way to this man, okay, over here. He currently has his back to you. Let me do this. This gives you sort of an idea of what he looks like. He's got this fairly good-sized greatsword sheathed. The armor he's wearing is very stylized. It's got like flying creatures and feathers and all of that worked into the overlay and the embroidery and all of this. The cape he's wearing is similar to what you've seen the guards wearing. They have these like mantles, which is to say almost like a cape rather than a cloak. So it's only, maybe a short, it doesn't even maybe come down to their waist or something. And it has these feathered top, like it literally has feathers on the top of it across the shoulders. And the whole material of it looks as if it's loose and airy and feathered in a way. So very stylistic. When you get to this pinnacle, so at the apex of this tower, the stairs terminate at this round stone gazebo that continues upward in a needle-like minaret. So that's what these pieces here would be. They're actually they lead up to the gazebo. You can see the dotted line there. That's indicating that there's actually something above there. So the stairs aren't just open to the elements. There's actually a cover over you guys. They beyond this enclosure, there's a small lawn that grows upon the top of the tower. 4 paths paved in white stone point to the cardinal directions. And there's these pointed stone crenellations. That's these things out here. That basically it looks like a giant compass, essentially. At the pinnacle's edge is a spyglass on a tripod pointed downward. And from this vantage point, the Feathergale Knights possess a supreme view of all that transpires in the nearby canyon, which you just climbed out of, and the Somber Hills beyond, which is where you came from. So you trekked from the Somber Hills. You came from Red Larch through the Somber Hills, or the southern tip of the southern Somber Hills, through the canyon, and now you've climbed up to this peak.
All right, real quick questions.
Yes, sir.
You said that we weren't quite at the top of the tower, or there was just a roof over the stairs?
Right, there's a roof over the stairs, and right now you're literally coming up to the peak, the pinnacle. So I'm going to put this big image over the top here for everybody to see. So if you were looking from the the canyon or from the surrounding areas, that's essentially what the spire looks like. And you guys, so you came from essentially you came from way back here and crossed this canyon from that side of the canyon. It came down into the canyon, across the bottom, and then up to where now you see over here, there's this drawbridge. and right up now you're up here. So you see how there's that kind of needle points up above you? When you come out of the staircase, that's essentially what you see. That's what's above you.
Gotcha.
Okay. So there you go. So that's essentially what this place looks like from the outside.
Okay.
So here's what happens. You climb to the top of the steps. The guard that was with you, she was leading you. She sort of steps up. She indicates this gentleman over here. She points over to him. She sort of does this sort of little, not much of a bow, but sort of like nods her head in a way of greeting. She's smiling, and then she walks back down the stairs. And so you're left here in this moment. You see the back of this man. He's got curly blonde hair. Disregard the image that I showed you. That one was black hair, but he's actually got curly blonde hair. He's standing there, like with his hands loosely clasped behind his back. His head is slightly tilted upward, and he's kind of in an at ease position, if you will. Simultaneously, as you take in him, you look around. You also see a gentleman that is standing nearby. Probably a lot more casual than the gentleman that is standing there, like almost immovable. And cheers. And you also notice two other guards. Again, they're wearing the feathered capes. One is standing right next to a giant vulture, and it seems to be essentially like petting it or keeping it relaxed, if you will. And the other seems to have just mounted, and like moments after you step up to the pinnacle, it moves to the edge and then takes off into the air. So this thing goes flying off. Your perception rolls were not high enough for you to detect this earlier, but I'm telling you as the players that these giant vultures basically do these mounted vultures do these big rounds, like these big circuits around and down and through the canyon. But you guys didn't notice them before. Your guess is that this other one has probably just come back from one of these little scouting routes. And Oscar definitely knows that. Like he has witnessed several of these, like, trading of, like, one comes back, one goes out, one comes back, one goes out. I would say you've also probably seen them periodically fly down below, and there's like those gateway doors that they would then you can tell fly into, and that's probably where these vultures roost. Aside from that, this is the moment. So the gentleman that you were introduced to as the captain is pretty much standing there with his hands clasped behind his back, and he's just, for as much as you could tell, he's staring off into the distance. So that's where we're going to pick up.
As soon as I see them come up the top of the stairs, glass of wine in hand, I will walk straight up next to them. Dark, shoulder-length hair, beard, slightly pointed ears, incredibly deep bow. Oscar Delacroix, your newest friend. Tell me, what brings you two to the Feathergale Society?
Ah, Oscar, well met. Dario Lobo, at your service. Me and my companion here, and I gesture to Holg.
I awkwardly put a hand up.
How does
Holg
Dario
is his
look?
name. Dario, his one ear shown, his hair kind of behind his back. He doesn't look absolutely magnificent as he would normally would, because I think we've been trekking through this valley for a while.
Yeah,
Um,
a couple days.
But he puts good energy into his expression, and he is putting his best foot forward. He has a dark goatee, very, very light goatee, not any thick beard or mustache, and he has about shoulder-length dark hair with pointed ears as well. Ugh. Well met, good sir. We happen to be touring this area, me and Holg here, and we were enthused to try and speak with the people in this tower here. We were doing some investigating around here, and we had wondered if the personnel of this tower might have spotted something or other.
And what does Holg look like?
Holg is a imposing figure. He's about 6'8", 220, 230 pounds, but light on his feet. So more of a basketball build than a football build. He awkwardly stares at you for a second. He goes, "I'm Holg. This is Dario."
I gathered as much. Oscar's going to take just a very slow walk around Holg. Gods above, you're an absolute unit. Tell me, what's the biggest thing you've ever killed?
We killed a bloodhawk about 20 minutes ago.
Wonderful.
Actually, you killed one of the giant vultures.
Holg. Dario's like taking his hand and putting it across his throat. It's like, Holg, come on.
And Holg is, of course, a half-orc. So,
Yep.
So,
And then to Dario in Elvish, you carry the touch of the Fae beautifully. Tell me, cousin, are the fair folk your mother or your father's side?
On my father's side, actually.
It's where you get your strength.
That's what I'd like to think.
For me, it's my mother's side. It's where I get my beauty.
And I can see it well.
Thank you. Back in common. Well, the featherheads here are wonderful. They are just marvelous. They've treated me well. I've been here overnight, and I am certain that they'll be able to help you. This guy over here, Thurl will. He's wonderful. You really should speak with him. I think he's tired of my company personally, but I think you might have more luck.
Stupendous. We're so overjoyed to be able to meet such respectable people out here over these harsh plains.
at the mention of his name, finally, this kind of stone-like figure, you hear this very loud and obvious inhalation of breath. And with this like kind of sweeping gesture, he turns around to face the three of you and says, "Ah, yes, honored guests. Come, do join me here, that we may further our introductions." And he's indicating that you like step out into the grass, and he actually walks a little closer to the edge at that point. And once you sort of have engaged him, and he can tell he has your attention, he says, and he does this sort of like very comfortable, very like stately bow. It's not anywhere near.
I return
deep.
it.
Yeah, it's
immediately,
right on.
without hesitation.
Awesome. And it's nowhere near as deep as the bow that you gave to Dario and Holg, but it's very relaxed, very formal and stately, but it's definitely from the waist, but he only tips himself forward just enough to indicate that he's bowing to you, and as if somehow maybe he's not sure yet if you're beneath him or not. So it's almost like he's gauging how he should entreat with you, and he says, it It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the pinnacle of Feathergale Spire. I am Thor Moroska at your service. And tell me, friends, what has brought you to our wonderful spire? And he turns, and at that point he's still listening, but he's like, it's almost like he can't help himself or something, and he walks to a position where he's sort of he gives you the indication he's expecting you to maybe line up with him and look out into the open air and across the valley, and as if there's something important to see there.
So with the initial bow that he gives us, Dario's quick side eye to Oscar, I mirror the bow, the depth of his bow.
Nice.
Oblivious, I exaggerate. I'm always deeper than necessary.
Dario would like to make sure not to ruffle any feathers around here, so he will do his best to stay in line. As he steps up beside Thorough, and out of character real quickly, I am a bit hazy on the events that have gone on that have actually brought us to the tower.
No worries.
Okay.
As far as I know, 2 people have showed up on a tower, so we're on the same page.
So, all right. So, quick little bit of background for everybody. So, Dario and Holg came from, as I mentioned, Red Larch. You guys were brought to the top of a hill investigating some recent graves. They had only been there for a few days. You dug up the graves, found some different bodies, and they were actually cairns. So there's they weren't even dug deep, but they were covered with stones, basically. And you found essentially the remnants of 4 or 5 bodies. And
4.
There you go.
I got them right here.
Yeah, go for it.
There's a female human warrior. She had a surcoat and a black axe, and the surcoat was for the Mirabar Guard. A male dwarf in artisan's robes, a male warrior in the same surcoat and the weird stone armor we saw before, and then a human male in white robes with black feathered shoulders.
And now, the black feathered shoulders, the robes are different. You haven't seen anyone yet, at least, that's wearing robes like that. But these guard, the vulture riders, and even Thurl himself, they have the same, essentially similar black feathered shoulders. And so that probably, it didn't occur to me to mention that when you first entered the tower. So thank you for bringing that back to our attention. So yeah, so you had the one person with stone armor, the one with the black feathered cape, one that is from Mirabar. Mirabar is a city to the north, and you all would know this well. Mirabar is a dwarven community, and it's very well known. And you did find the bars, the 5 bars that were the Mirabar currency. So you went through you found some kind of an entrance into an underground something, but you were sort of turned away at the entrance. Basically, they said, you don't belong here, you don't want any of this, and you all decided not to press your luck, and so went across the canyon, and then decided you fought the vulture, and then decided to climb up and try to see who exactly is in this. You were told this is called Feathergale Spire by the farmer who brought you to those graves.
Larman Greenboot.
That's right.
And he also said, or we heard stories of Waterdeep nights on flying monsters.
And your guess is these are the people he's talking about. Thurl Moroska, essentially, when he introduced himself, would say and you heard Oscar mention the Feathergale Society. You hadn't heard that before, but you can put the Feathergale Spire and the Feathergale Society together. Oscar definitely knows that this is a group from Waterdeep. So you have bits of information individually that at some point again, this is player knowledge. Character knowledge at some point can overlap too when it comes up in conversation. So Thurl, he introduced himself. He heard your names and basically turns and says, "Come, tell me of yourselves and your business here as we enjoy the view." And he kind of goes back to sort of staring off, but you can tell he's paying attention.
I'm Holg. This is Dario. He talks.
Yes, thank you, Holg. Yes, my name is Dario Lobo. Pleased to make your acquaintance. This is a truly magnificent spire you have here.
Isn't it?
With some glorious feather steeds to go along with it.
Ah, yes. Aren't they magnificent?
Truly breathtaking. They seem quite lethal. As I look at Holg.
Oh, they are that, my friend.
Anyway, our business out here is one of a rather sour note. We actually came from a local town, Redlart, if you've heard of it.
Ah, yes, I know it well.
We were investigating there was a group of, so did we know that the whole group that we were looking for was the Mirabar Guard?
Ask that again?
So
did you know?
Leaving from Red Larch,
right?
We had heard there was fresh graves.
Yes.
And I thought at one point we had also heard something about there was a group of people from Mirabar, like traveling.
There was a convoy. Yes.
The convoy. Yes. Okay.
Yes. Hold on, I have that in here somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize that my notes are nowhere to be found. It's been a long time.
It's all good. It's all good.
There was someone specifically that let's see, that Patrick and I knew in the convoy. I'm trying to pull that name back up.
Okay.
I may not have that actually now that I'm going through these. There was someone specifically that we knew, and we know she's carrying something important to us.
Was that ever conveyed to Dario?
I think we told you that we were looking for someone in the convoy. I don't think we told you what we're looking for.
Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Let me get that.
And I'm trying to remember if you knew that they haven't shown up yet, right?
Yes. We heard they hadn't shown up yet, and then that's why when we heard about the graves showing up on the hilltop, we wanted to take a look and see if it had anything to do with the convoy that went missing.
Okay.
And then we saw the Mirabar Guard uniform, and that kind of confirmed our suspicions. And this was the only landmark around, so this is where we headed. They would take shelter here.
Perfect.
Excellent. So the commander of the Feathergale Knights he's this well-built human male. He's in his 50s. I kind of skipped over this, so I want to just make sure I touch on it. Embossed feathered patterns ornament the plates of his armor, and his kingly cloak boasts the feathered mantle. That's the mantle I was talking about, where now you've made this connection of like, holy crap, that body that we found had a mantle just like these dudes are wearing. And then he's kind of you notice him smoothing his white blonde hair into his place, and he bowed before you and then like, I apologize because he actually did bow very low. Like, this is more his manner, is like he bows as if he's some like low courtier. You, Oscar, have determined you think he's doing it in a way that is like I'm so high above you, I'm going to pretend I'm beneath you. Does that make sense?
Oh my.
It does, but I'm naive enough to just try and bow further.
All right, fantastic. That's totally awesome.
It might have been a slightly awkward moment, but I'm okay with that.
Right. And so after you share your names with him, then he returns with he says, "Welcome to Feathergale Spire, retreat of the Feathergale Society. I am Thurl Moroska, Lord Commander." And then he says,
I'm hurt.
Come.
It's very good.
"Come, let us enjoy the view as we get acquainted." And so now it's like at this point you've turned, you're facing, and yeah. What would you like to say again?
All right. Yes, quite an breathtaking view.
The name was Terrasil, by the way, Sam.
Terrestrial, yes.
Terrasil, yeah. There we go.
For the person you knew in the
Yes, that's
Mirabar
the person
convoy.
that Patrick and I knew who was in the delegation.
Would Dario have known that?
I think we told you that when we
Okay,
found
so
the bodies, because he and I
Terra-
exchanged words that she wasn't among them.
Gotcha. Could you say the name one more time for me?
I could probably type it in there
Terrace?
for you. Terrestrial.
Terrestrial.
Let's see if I can find it now.
I'll just spell it how I think it's spelled and be wrong.
Tresiel. It's pretty easy.
Oh wow. Tresel.
Terrestrial. It's a very obviously elven name.
Ah, gotcha. There we go.
I mean, obvious to your characters.
Blatant.
Blake.
By the way, your conversation in Elvish before,
Yes.
Holg understood just about as much of that as he would have if you said it in English. He just kind of gave you the same expression, like,
it looked like he was following along with what you said.
I would
Not
not
at
have
all.
picked up on that.
not at all.
Dario would not have noticed that either.
No, I mean, Holg understood none of it, and he normally is just like, okay, I'm going along with it.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you meant just like, yes, he is as fluent in Elvis
No.
as the in common. Okay.
No.
Well, if you were giving signs that you understood, then I'm going to assume you understood.
Just nodding along like I know what's going on.
I'm okay with that.
He can. So he sort of seems to show some favor towards Dario, because of your bearing and your manners, and he says, "Dario Lobo, is it? It seems you've been out on the road a good time, my friends. You look rather road-weary. Is my guess
yes.
correct?"
Oh yes, quite road weary. We had spotted this tower from quite a ways off and had desired to arrive here quite a long time ago. However, we did encounter some obstacles when trying to reach here, but reaching here was quite worth the journey. This view is breathtaking.
Isn't it, though? He looks like he's filled with pride as if it's his. Like,
It seems like a great time for Oscar to kind of step in. He'll just, well, I don't know about you two. My cousin Emerald, he sent me along. He said I would do so well among the featherheads here in the canyon. He is very skilled, and he said that if I came, he knew that I would do well. And this Thrill, Captain Thrill, Lieutenant Thrill, I'm sorry, what was your title again?
Lord Commander.
Lord Commander Thrill. He was amongst the best. But, of course, Emerald beat him a few times in races, but that's not important. But I'm so glad you guys are here, too. It was getting so droll up here. It really was. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that.
You hear this deep inhalation again of like, Like, as if Thurl is somehow maybe trying to rise above the conversation or something.
Oh my.
Yes, and what has brought you gentlemen here to our humble society?
So, we had been traveling from Red Larch in search of a group we heard that was traveling around. We had found some shallow graves here to the southeast, and we had found some different persons buried in them, not seeming to be from the same group. We had wondered if your noble riders of this tower may have seen something. Maybe something happening towards that direction, or seen a group of people moving around down there.
He sort of looks as if he's thinking, and he says, graves, you say? In the hills yonder?
Well, yes, of course.
He says, tell me more. What were these graves were new within the last few days, or why would I be concerned with graves?
Oh no, we had been led by a local herder who said he had come across the graves in the hills. They looked to be quite fresh.
They were traveling with a friend of ours. We're looking for her.
I see.
What friend?
Terraxiel.
Oh, that's Elvish, isn't it? Sounds Elvish to me. More of a statement than a question, but yes, that's Elvish.
Yes, my assumption is they are Elvish. More of Holg's acquaintance than mine. But an acquaintance of a friend is practically a friend, so...
Everyone's a friend, you just haven't met yet.
I like your way of thinking.
And
You wouldn't happen to know anything about them, would you?
Do I know any Terrasiels? Tessariels?
To the Lord Commander.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. It's totally fine.
Oscar assumes the role of Lord Commander quite
No.
sweetly.
I just wondered if I knew them. I mean,
You might be above him. I don't know.
my family is very far-reaching, you must understand, and there's more than a few throughout. Oscar tries overly hard to really want to connect here. You know what I mean? He wants to know.
I would say give me a history check to see if you've heard the name.
Oscar history.
First roll of the session.
Oh yeah,
Come on.
there you go.
18.
You can tell it's definitely Elven. It is no one that you're familiar with.
No problem. I try and keep track of my cousins. They get not irate, but I don't know. They hate it when I forget their names.
Have quite a large family, Oscar.
What I really found is on my mother's side, with the long life of the elves, I have collected more nieces, nephews, cousins, uncles, and otherwise than I ever thought possible. But it's always been... It's hard to explain. I have exactly 2 uncles and an aunt on my father's side, and I'm pretty sure there's 36 on my mother's, but it's hard to keep track.
Oh, fascinating. I can't say that I know my mother's side well at all, actually. I hardly have any close relatives left.
It's a shame. My family's always been all around me. I don't know. They keep looking at me like I should do something, but I don't know. We'll see.
Thurl looks to you and says, well, what do you think the meaning of these graves is?
Someone's dead.
Well,
And beyond
seems-
that?
it seems there might have been a bit of a scuffle between groups, per se.
Groups, you
and
say?
yes, we only found one in the graves that seemed to match the description of the group Holg and I were looking for. So we assumed that the rest of them might have gone somewhere else. That's why we were wondering if something had been seen here from the tower.
My scouts have reported nothing to me, and I have seen no evidence of any graves being dug, although it might be beyond my field of vision. I do have quite the view, and he sort of like gets lost for another moment and, looking and thinking about it. It says, but alas, I cannot see everything that transpires in the area.
Dario doesn't believe him,
Okay.
or doesn't want to believe him.
Sure.
Oscar does.
Holg is kind of going to stare at him, and
He seems to be on the level. If you are wondering if he is being dishonest, you, by all means, please roll an insight check.
Ooh. Give me.
With a 20.
Wait till combat, I get those crit negative rolls.
So a 20 gets you this insight. You think...
Natural 20. The first natural 20.
No, it's a dirty
19.
20, unfortunately.
Oh, it's a dirty 20? How's it show
Yes.
natural 20s?
If it's
It'll
a
show up.
Is green.
Yeah. It'll have a
Okay,
green
sorry.
bar. If it's a
It's a
natural
dirty
1, it'll
20.
have a red bar. And if you roll something that has both a high roll and a low roll, it'll be blue. So if we roll 2d8s and you got a 1 and an 8, it would be blue.
Also, you can hover your mouse over the number and it actually shows you what went into the roll, like 1d20 plus 1 for my insight
Yep.
check.
I see that now. It does the math.
So with the 20, you sense that what he just said was the truth, and you think he's obviously there's lots to tell. There's lots to tell. Like there's something is on the edge of this conversation. Maybe that's not exactly clear. Like either he's holding something back, or you know there's been some facial gestures where something you said has maybe struck like he's like, oh, I'll have to look into that, maybe something along these lines. So there's something else there beneath the surface, but it's not clear what. You definitely don't think he's lying to you though.
Okay.
So, putting 2 and 2 together, which takes a minute for Holg, he realizes that the feathers match, so he's just gonna.
Have any of your people gone missing recently?
Ah, yes, now that you mention it, your armor does look very familiar. I think there was somebody in one of the graves who actually had that type of feathered ensemble that you have going there. Quite concerning.
So you
A
think it was a
little less
featherhead?
fancy.
He looks at you and he says, "You're certain?"
Oh yes, quite certain, unfortunately.
One of the bodies was wearing a Feathergale cape.
Robe.
A robe, you say? That is disturbing. He says, I'll have to look into this. I'm not aware of any of our knights having gone missing.
Is the feathered shoulders quite the unique look for your group, or?
So again, he sort of, he says, his face lights up a little bit. He's like happy to talk about it. He says, yes, it is something of a badge of station or a symbol, if you will, of our great society. We pride ourselves. We are enthusiasts. We are aerial flight enthusiasts. And he's like looking over at the other Feathergale knight who's sort of just like tending to its giant vulture. Every once in a while, the vulture like, makes these cawing, but it's just like it's just preening itself, waiting. It's it's there, sort of being attended to, and yeah, he says once you become one of the elite members of our aerial mount enthusiast group, you earn your right to wear one. Perhaps it might be something that interests one such as yourself someday.
Oh, what a splendid idea. I could certainly see myself sporting the very, very fine feathered look, and
You have
maybe
the
even
grace for it. You'd carry it well.
Why, thank you. How far out do these magnificent birds fly? What's their range per se?
He says, well, without question, one of them could return to the fine city of Waterdeep in a matter of time. Generally, we stick here to this canyon. We don't venture out far from the tower. There's really no need for us to. He sort of grins. And tell me more of your adventures. This missing friend of yours, you say, that's what led you here to our spire. But I'm curious and confused why you would come here.
Oh, why?
And he sort of points. He says, if the graves were on the other side of the canyon. And he sort of looks confused, or maybe not confused, but he's more like he's trying to puzzle it out himself.
Oh, why, this spire's the most magnificent and glorious structure around. You could see everything from here. This was our first logical step. If there was somebody here, they might have seen something, and that was our best guess. There wasn't too many other people around we could ask.
Holg kind of nods along and he goes,
This is where I would have looked for shelter, had I been attacked.
Ah, well, sad to say that none such as you describe have arrived. Aside from yourselves and Master
Lord
Oscar
Commander,
here.
if I might. I'm terribly sorry, but since I got here yesterday, you've spent a lot of time looking down into the valley. I mean, you have such a beautiful view. Is there anything you've seen that we could maybe help with? I mean, these two are looking for someone, and if there's anything we can help with, then that's what I'm here for. I really want one of those capes. I think I'd look great in it.
Give me a persuasion check.
Absolutely. Only a 10. I absolutely flubbed the roll with a 3, by the way. And I have been here for 24 hours, so if he's ready to get rid of me, this would be a good chance to get rid of me.
Also, if I may, as Oscar says that, Dario goes, why, yes, of course. We all, us of the like-minded of aerial nobility, at least of the respects, oh, we can do something for you if you might be able to help us in some informative way, of course. We're all friends here. Trying to slide right on top of Oscar and add to his sentiment. Not trying to interject to try to do my own persuasion roll. I would just try to act along.
Help.
Yeah, act along-side it. Yes.
Sure. All right. Let's give you advantage for that roll there, as he sort of pipes in with backing.
Okay, so 23.
So he says, so Thurl looks at the boat, looks from one of you to the other, and he says, I can tell you are both men of character. He says, not only do I keep an eye on the sky, but I do maintain an awareness of what goes on here and around this spire. I must, after all. I'm responsible for these men and women, you see? And he says to you, I do not know where those graves came from, but I can tell you this. Great evil lurks among these hills. These depraved cultists led by wretched monsters. But let us speak of such matters after the feast has warmed our blood. We will have a dinner. It is late in the evening and I grow hungry, and with great friends such as yourselves to join us, let us eat. Please, friends, go and refresh yourselves, and I will see you, shall we say, in an hour in the feast hall. And he sort of, at that time, he starts walking you over towards the stairway. He puts his hands on your shoulders and he's sort of gathering you up. So he sort of said this in a brief moment of a cloud sort of passed over his face. His face darkened when he thought about it and said that. And I can repeat it if it helps. And then he signals to the other guard, the other knight rather. And so the knight walks over and he says, Lord Commander. And Thurl looks at him and says, yes, please see that our friends are allowed to freshen up and meet us for dinner on the hour. And then he sort of turns and he says, gentlemen, and he nods to you and then goes back to stand by the edge of the tower. Sort of you get the sense that he's sort of dismissed you in a way.
That man is incredibly hard to speak with. I just want you both to know that. I have been trying for 2 days, and that's the most words I've gotten out of him at once.
Oh my. Yes, I was able to pull together that he plays his cards close to his chest.
He likes it here. He really does.
Yeah.
He's proud of this place. He is.
You
for good
notice him-
reason. Look how beautiful it is. It's gorgeous here.
You notice him again, he's gone back to sort of that position where he's just standing at ease, and his cloak is billowing behind him, and he just seems to keep taking these deep, long inhalations and stuff.
I definitely start talking about him before we're completely out of earshot, in
Sure.
case that wasn't clear.
No sweat. In the meantime, the guard has come over. You can see that there's a small tether to the giant eagle. It sort of keeps it in place, and he's basically indicating for you to follow him and waits till you're all essentially ready.
There's going to be a party. We have to be at our best. And since it hasn't been commented, Oscar is immaculately dressed.
Awesome. So first he takes you over down to this first level. What is Oscar's passive perception? 10.
Oscar's passive perception. Oh,
11.
sorry. Passive perception is 10.
10. Okay. And then AC.
Holg is covered in dirt, and
Yeah, they're both.
I'm
needed.
filthy, and I'm loving it.
Oh, Oscar. You see on Dario a short rapier on the side.
Absolutely.
And a light crossbow on his back.
That's the exact same I carry.
That's awesome.
I can see we're men of similar tastes.
We are men of class. That's what it
Of
shows.
class.
It also shows that we're quick on the draw and run away when something comes toward us.
We keep a strategic distance, I like to say.
It's the best thing, really.
Yes, it promotes survival.
It's always wonderful to have friends about, as he places a hand on Holg's shoulder.
Uh,
So this gentleman doesn't seem to be paying much mind to your conversation.
I forgot about him already, so that's
No
fair.
worries. No worries. There's
on the way up the tower, did Dario notice any large rooms in the tower?
all the doors were closed. This is what I'm checking real quick to see where they might put you up. That is there. Where did they put you? I think they bring you back down to there.
I'm gonna just smear some dirt across my forehead as we're walking down.
I will nod knowingly toward Dario. It's about right.
Just some small back and forth.
I look like Pigpen from Charlie Brown, like complete with the smell squigglies coming off me.
No.
Oh,
you
gosh.
look like a beast in the best possible way, and never forget that.
Okay, so
likes
he
you,
takes you down one more level. So you go down 2 flights of stairs, and
I don't think I'm in whatever PC group you have.
it's okay. I haven't.
That's
they
fine,
came
I
up
just
the
wanted you to
tower, so
know.
I had them on there already.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I just wanted you to
already
know.
said
That's
there.
all.
Yep, no worries. So he takes you down. There's a set of double doors on this level. He actually opens up the double doors.
Is it where I stayed last night?
Uh,
Or at least where I had dinner last night?
dang it. I'm gonna say, yes.
I stride through confidently.
Dario follows
moment,
a
I'm
little bit
just-
behind Oscar.
I'm following in that way people follow when they're pretty sure they know where they're going, but they're not positive.
Okay, so there we
Perfect.
go. There's a little opening. So you
Oh my.
So he opens these double doors, and you see a great hall. This great hall spans half the diameter of the tower. Between the overlarge windows, tapestries depict scenes of gallant knights flying on flying hippogriffs. They're fighting dragons and jousting with one another among the clouds. High on the walls are the mounted heads of griffins, wyverns, owlbears, and manticores. A long, curved table set for a feast stretches between the hall's twin hearths. The knight indicates that this is where the dinner will be in just a short time. He walks you around to this door right here, and then indicate, you definitely did stay in this room last night, Oscar. It's sort of like for the knights you gather, but he gave it as a visiting noble or whatever. He sort of let you into this room. When you step into the cell, the chamber has 2 beds, a fireplace, a closet, 2 chests, and a small tapestries on the wall. And this room is pretty Spartan. There's a wash basin in there, and basically he says, it gives you the opportunity to freshen up.
I immediately walk over to the chest, open it, pull out 2 or 3 glasses and a bottle of wine, pour a glass for everyone, and hand them out as they come in.
Awesome. So Dario and Holg follow, I'm guessing. The knight is sort of like leading you to it.
Ah, yeah.
If they don't, I stick my head out with glasses and a bottle of wine.
Right. So once you're inside, the knight he says, "I shall return to my duties, and someone will come and knock on the door when we are ready for this evening's meal." And he kind of grins pleasantly.
You've done wonderfully, and I give him a silver.
He sort of looks down at the coin in your hand, and then like awkwardly reaches out and takes it from you, and then
Don't be shy, you earned it.
he's got that kind of look of like, yeah, and then he just like closes the door behind him and walks up. Yeah, you gather he walks back up to the
Quietly to Dario.
I still think they want to eat us.
They're not going to eat us.
I
And
have
I
my
hand him a glass.
reservations about the group here, but they seem noble enough. And why, yes, Oscar, this seems like quite the fine vintage. What year is this?
It's 1472. Excellent year.
Oh, truly excellent. As I take a sip.
I wish I carried more with me, but there's limits.
Yes, very
I
hard to travel
apologize.
with fine wine.
There were you did notice that there were 2 knights in the room.
It's 1482 since 1492 hasn't happened yet.
I actually don't know what year it is, so yes.
I have no
I
idea.
should probably write that down. 1492.
It's 1491 typically.
1491.
It doesn't matter. I don't know. I'm unimportant details.
I have no idea what year it is. So there were 2 of these Feathergale knights in the room. I should have mentioned. I apologize. I forgot. So they let you be. So about, did you want to have any conversation here now that you have like a little bit of privacy?
Yes.
Awesome.
So, Oscar, would you mind telling us from what city you hail from?
Oh, I'm from elsewhere.
Elsewhere. Okay.
Yes, not from here.
Not from here.
It's very obvious that Oscar scrambles for some kind of a town name, and he just lists some small elven town from the High Forest.
Okay.
Kasi, not too far from the grandfather tree.
Of course. Now, quick out of character note. I don't have a good representation of the map on my in recent memory. Would Dario know where that is?
That's a good question. How do I want to handle this? Oscar made the name up, or was it a real name?
No, Kasi I think it's the largest town in the High Forest. It's almost the only one on the map. I'm looking at the map right now.
Okay, sweet. So this is the map of the Sword Coast? Or
yes. Yeah.
Okay, so then probably Dario would be... Well, why don't you roll a history check?
There we go.
See if you know it. You have not heard of it.
Kasi.
It's not ringing any bells at the moment.
I pour more into Dario's glass just to...
Dario rolls right along with it, fully believing him, because he has never heard of this city and knows not much of elven cities, in fact. Yes. Well, as you've heard, we have traveled from Red Larch on some interesting investigations locally. What has brought you out here, if you mind reminding me? You might have mentioned up there while talking to the gracious Lord Commander, but I may have missed it.
He wants a fancy cape.
A fancy cape would be wonderful.
Holg was paying attention.
Thank you, Holg.
I have to admit, if all I get out of this is a fancy cape, I have come out ahead.
Oh.
My cousin sent me Emerald. He said the Featherheads were wonderful people, and I ought to come here because I do well among the Featherheads. He said I was very much a Featherhead, and he just felt I'd do well here. So as I was journeying, I thought, well, let's stop and see what he's talking about.
Okay. I wasn't quite sure whether this was your true destination or not. Sorry for doubting you as I raise my glass to you.
Excellent. Cheers. Salud.
Hulk holds up an empty glass. Threw it back like it was a shot as soon as he saw Dario take a sip.
I happily refill it without hesitation.
It seems like Holg has a case of the leaky glass.
Leaky glasses. That's the most terrible disease. I've seen some awful things in the land of Pharaon, but a leaky
Truly
glass, there is
terrible.
nothing worse than a leaky glass.
Ruins the night, I tell you.
It does.
Now, how many of these nights have you seen in this tower here during your stay? I take it you arrived here yesterday.
Oh, thereabouts. It's been about a day. I spent the evening last night. We had a fine dinner. They have a hesitancy to eat fowl, which I find odd. But we had a good pig. The wine was okay. It could have been better. Service was awful. But there was a number of them in the hall. Probably a dozen or so, would say. But I don't know if they were all eating at once or not. They're always flying back and forth. They're always on their way. I
Do
don't
they
know.
seem to be flying at night as well?
I don't know. I don't think I was up top during the evening.
Fascinating.
You noticed that in the time you observed, about every hour, one of them would patrol the air around the spire.
I have
they
no
do,
reason
like-
to believe they wouldn't have kept doing that overnight. So about every hour or so, they'd fly off.
They are truly
Most of them
inactive.
fly those giant vultures. Such an undignified creature. They shit everywhere.
Yes, I see. We actually had quite the altercation with one of them close to the base of the tower down in the valley. Unfortunately, we killed it thanks to
Don't
Holg and my other friend.
tell them that.
Yes, Holg. Let's refrain from mentioning that to them.
The Featherheads are a sensitive bunch.
Yeah,
He tried
very
to eat
prideful.
me.
Nothing tried to... Why do you think everything wants to eat you?
I'm delicious.
I'm
I
not
have
going
nothing
to
to say
ask
to
how
that.
you know that.
So he's been traveling with you, then?
Yes, he is quite the useful travel companion. He is quite the quirker too, but he is reliable.
I assume at this point I refill both my glass and Dario's.
Yes.
Holg, are you on 3? Because if so, I have to throw out the bottle.
Oh yeah.
It's gone. 1 bottle down.
How many more bottles do you happen to be carrying with you?
I only carry 2, but there's always more to be found.
Very prepared. I respect your ways.
It's the best way.
Oh,
I think they wanted us for dinner or something.
They wanted us for dinner.
What? Not everything means 2 things, Hulk. Sometimes it just means 1 thing.
Now, at the very least, Holg has utmost pride in his abilities, so I'm glad for his confidence in the matter. I'm beginning to think that they might not want to eat us whole, but it's good to be prepared for every possible avenue.
I think it's best if you 2 cleaned up a touch, a knowing glance toward Hulk, so that we were ready for dinner.
I'm gonna look back at Dario and just
Less dirt in their teeth.
How did you get dirt in your teeth?
no,
I say in Elven to Dario, what the hell is he talking about?
I'm not actually sure myself.
because then if we get cleaned up and they eat us, there will be less dirt in their teeth.
yeah.
Dario
Let
does not
prep
make
work.
that connection. I'm sorry.
Nope. Oscar definitely does not pick up any subtlety whatsoever, ever.
Okay.
Oh,
I
God.
100% think you're in on the eating us thing right now.
So does Dario gonna? Is Dario going to clean himself up at least?
Yes, I'm gonna glance around the room to see if there
Yeah,
might
there's
be.
basin and water and all that. Yeah, for
Yes,
sure.
he's going to clean up. Maybe he does have one extra pair of nicer clothes. So he might slip on his shirt and try to neaten up a bit.
Sure.
I'll throw some water on my face and my hands, but my chest is just going to be slick with mud still.
Oh God,
Mud and blood.
where
Yeah.
did the mud come from?
We were down trudging through a canyon for a while and we walked along a stream. Like,
We didn't belly slide through it.
speak for yourself.
Holg practicing his mud breaststroke, of course.
I'm pretty sure I failed the dex save when we were coming down and I ended up getting a little dirty.
I forgot the interactions we had while trudging through the valley.
It was a long time ago, but
It was a long time ago.
I distinctly remember being filthy.
I mean, you did fight some, you know.
I also dug the graves up by hand, so
Oh yeah, that's.
I imagine I got dirty doing that
Yeah,
too.
for sure. And you haven't cleaned up since then. That's right.
What exactly was the time like? Has it been like a day since we dug up the graves?
That seems about right. Yeah,
Okay.
a little over a day, I think.
Yeah,
so
because we traveled and then we
traveled,
took a rest,
slept,
and then we
traveled-
saw the cave, and we went straight out of the cave and up.
Yeah.
So, like,
It-
yeah, like a day and a half maybe.
Seeing the cave is a bit strongly worded. We randomly happened upon the cave is more in alignment with what happened.
Yep. That's
The
exactly
universe was
right.
like, the cave is here, and you have found it, and we're like, oh, we don't know how to use this information, but we'll make a note of it for later.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
Exactly.
Oscar stops preening for a moment. Are we going to dinner or what?
Ah, yes, we should hurry out there and not keep them waiting any longer. Let's go.
Find out what happens at the dinner party in part 2 of our We Out Here campaign, session 2, Enter the Bard. Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you at a table someday. And remember, it's your game, play your way.